Hey everyone, it's Jeff Fisher of High School Football America in the NFL Play Football studio. And I've been doing this a long time, half a century. And I've never had the opportunity to talk to a coach on the other side of the box like the one I'm going to introduce you to in a second, Matt Taylor at Skyline. He has the distinction of not only winning boys tackle championships at Skyline and Washington State, four of them, and just this past couple of months ago, I guess a month ago now at this point, he won the 4A Girls Flag Championship for Skyline. Coach, thanks for taking the time and making a little history here with me today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so it sounds so wild to even hear that, but probably when you won your last one there back in 2012, we weren't thinking girls flag would be this big varsity sport across the country like it is. So before we dive in and go backwards, I'd love to just get your initial feeling to hearing that you've been able to accomplish this tackle and flag state championships. What comes to your mind when you hear that?
It was quite the journey, and I'm so gracious of the girls, embarking on this first year. It was actually the first year of it being a sport in Washington State. Just passed the amendment I think last May. And the biggest thing that was so fun is I had three former players and my former defensive coordinator on my staff also. And the
Nice.
cool thing and we started to reflect on after we won it was we really did treat this the same as far as concepts that we use with the girls, and they really picked it up fast. And I think that was a real big part of it. I was blessed to have coached a couple of high school American quarterbacks, and we were calling plays pretty much the same, And the only advantage was now our center was eligible, so that kind of added a little wrinkle there. So that was a lot of fun, and we
That's
took
right.
advantage of that. So
Yeah, and you already took my second question, which was what was the biggest adaptation from the tackle side to the flag side? I love the story about your former players and all that, but did you have anything where you're like, oh, this is a little different, or was it just really kind of straight on? We're just having a center catch the ball as opposed to all the other good stuff that goes along with flag.
you know what? It was a huge adjustment because first of all, with the zones, your first zone, you have four downs to go 17 yards in each zone. But that first one, you got to be a little more strategic. You got to really, you can't be as aggressive, because you want to make sure you get in that second zone. Now you got your four downs because, then you can be a little more aggressive with play calling. But as far as, the adaptation, the first thing is, it's not inherently, girls don't naturally play football. They don't play catch all the time. And catching a football was the biggest adjustment,
Yeah.
for our girls. And, we spent a lot of time on fundamentals that first month. We platooned our girls to make sure we maximize as many girls get on the field as possible because we were teaching a game that was it was kind of like teaching Spanish, from as far as from a cadence to lining up on the ball but we really just broke it down and really made sure our girls understood like every drill we did was functional to the game. As far as false starts are the most, we all know that in football, but
Right.
that's the most avoidable penalty, and so we did everything on a ball. We didn't use sound and just really try to adapt that. And then, we mentioned with the center, the center can screen, but then we developed, a technique for screening. And then when we basically say shuffle set, and then escape, so like once the blitzer got by her, then she could escape and could become like an outlet for the quarterback, which is totally new. Even when you do 7-on-7, we pride ourselves in tackle football and 7-on-7 in the off season to develop a competitive edge in our kids. But it's really 5-on-7 because the quarterback can't run out and the center can't run out.
Right.
But yeah, so that was a big adjustment. And just language for drills and giving them relevance to why we do this drill and how it applies to a certain route or a certain, how we throw the ball. So it was really breaking down that's what made it more fun, and honestly, and not to get off on a tangent about this, but it was so fun because right now there are no third party coaches. There are no,
Good
there's
point.
no off season like 7-on-7s. It's going to happen. I know it's going to come, but we really had a captive audience, and that's what made it the most fun too.
Yeah, I have a good friend in New Jersey who's won four straight girls flag championships. He's now the head coach of the elite Jets team, the New York Jets team. And I was doing an interview with him, and he had this really great quote that I didn't expect. So I'm going to ask you, since you have done both, and he did both, by the way. His point was he's found it easier to coach the girls than the boys because they tend to retain faster and, and are able to get the concept quicker and put it into play. What did you find, or are we going to keep it politically correct and say no, they're both great?
Oh, I actually, and I will echo other coaches that we went against too. I mean, 100%. And I don't think it's a fault of the boys. I just think there's so much more influence right now by watching playing Madden. I mean, it sounds silly, but the kids, or how to run an out route because maybe their former coach or their little league coach or something like that. I mean, really, the retention was there, and I will say I will echo that. We always had full attention every time we talked to them, and the retention, I never said it like that, but it is true. You know, but the other side, I will say, coaching boys to girls, we had a we had a slogan that we did a lot of team building stuff, which I did with my boys, and they came up with a 3-letter slogan. It was SEAL, SEAL, but coaching girls, we go seal on 3, and then they start going like a seal, and it's like you will not hear boys do that, So that was the uniqueness. And then even in our state championship game, we got there early, and I was watching the 3A game, and our coach were watching it, and we went in the locker room, and I go, guys, you won't believe what they're doing in there right now, and they're all in a circle, like acting like they're meditating, and I'm like, I hope they're ready, but they were ready. So it's just so different. But I also, like I said, I always told them every time after our practice, I always say, and I did with my boys, I said, make good decisions. We care about you. Your parents care about you when you leave our practice. But more importantly, I'm a girl dad to 73 girls now. So that was a lot of fun too.
That's neat. Good numbers too. Like I said, what was it, 2020? You hung up the head coaching whistle there at Skyline. What got you
Yeah.
back onto the sidelines? What got your juices flowing again? Because I've only met you this time right now, but you sound like you had one heck of a good time.
I did. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. I started out in the program in 1999 with Steve Jervis, who's in the Hall of Fame here. He had won several state championships at 3 different schools. We were fortunate to win 3 state championships as an assistant with him at Skyline. And my kids grew up in the program. They were ball boys. They'd ride the bus with me. My wife and I met in the program. She was graduating college, and we had met. So she met a coach and a teacher. She knew what she was getting into. She was actually the main reason I applied for the job, because you know what they say, you never want to be the guy that follows the guy, right? So I was basically following a Hall of Fame coach at Skyline, but she looked me in the eyes and said, "You can do this." And she was, the main reason. There was actually an article written a long time ago, I think in Football America, or one of those publications, and they titled it "The Smart Wife," because she pushed me to do this. But we live about 30 miles away from where I teach, and I didn't want to ever coach against my kids. So my kids go to a neighboring school, and it was just time. I'd been a head coach for 13 years. I've been at Skyline for 22 years, but I didn't leave Skyline. I love Skyline. They might have a park bench out for me when I leave here, because I plan on retiring from here. So I didn't coach for 2 years, and then I became offensive coordinator at the neighboring school my kids were for 2 years. And then I stepped down. And then this opportunity opened up, and I always had a dream of starting a program from scratch. I had my vision of maybe we're adding a new high school in our district. I was like, okay, maybe I could take that on and be a part of picking the colors and ordering all the new gear and all that stuff and start from scratch. And this was the perfect situation because I love Skyline. My heart was always at Skyline, even when I was coaching at the other school. It was weird. I walked around school. Everybody called me coach. I was still coach because even the kids rising, they were in my youth program. They were, people knew who I was. And this opportunity arose, and I couldn't be more happy. And it's awesome because it's in the winter. We do it in the winter here.
Yep.
And my son was at football, so I got to go watch him. He's a senior now. He has had his last season. My daughter's heavy into softball, so I get to go watch her. And that really, it's the sweet spot. And my passion is, and actually my assistant said I've always been more invigorator. I've got my fire back, and I'm loving it. I want to start a youth program out here. I'm going to meet with our football youth program and branch off. Maybe have a Skyline Spartan youth not seven, flag football program,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, as I say, this is a little bit easier too when I do the flag stories versus the tackle. Like if somebody wins a state championship, I interviewed a coach in Texas yesterday, and I'm like, you can't name all 53 kids, right? You'd like to, but you
Yeah.
can't do that. We don't have enough time to do it. But I would like you to take a little bit of time here to maybe salute some of the players on your team that played a key role in winning that state championship.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, it's gonna be hard. So, like I said, they're all of my daughters, but we were very blessed. We have our quarterback Piper Swanson. I believe there she'll be the state player of the year. She's a junior. She threw like 73 touchdowns this year. Was her expected completion rate was like around 85%. Like I said, we platooned. So and we put some of our girls on defense that were a little bit of ball catchers, and then in the playoffs we called it Annex, and Annex is the king of all kings in Sparta. So that was like our top. We put our best seven on the field at key situations, but she's phenomenal. Her way to improvise, her way to read, was it really grew, and she was instrumental in this state championship. She was lights out, especially in the playoffs. We had a wide receiver, Devin Wilson, who's she's a softball player that's going to go play at Coastal Carolina. She's probably one of the top softball players in our state. She ended up missing the last two games because we have in Washington we have a February break for President's Day weekend, a week off, and she had a pre-planned trip to Amsterdam way before, so she missed that. But I think she had like 23 touchdowns. She was phenomenal. And then on we had another receiver, Penelope O'Hare, who was another speedster on the outside. So we had the ability to throw deep. That was a real advantage for us. We had a quarterback that could throw deep. So we had that deep threat. A lot of the teams we played, they just didn't have that. They didn't have a quarterback that could really throw it 30, 35, 40 yards in the air with consistency and precision. So that really helped us out. And then Maddie Johnson, our center, I called her our secret weapon because she was really good at screening. Basically, for those that are real familiar with flag football, they're watching this. It's basically like, you can't have a moving screen, but you can have a screen. It's kind of like basketball. That's where we treated it. So, and then after they got fired, then she would escape and become an outlet. It was real paramount. There was one time Piper, we were up 21-7, I believe, in the state championship game. We went down, maybe it was 21-14, yeah. And we had a key third down, and they had a blitz, and then Piper, almost like Patrick Mahomes, just flipped it to her, and she got the first down. We wanted to score to go up 2 scores, and then came back and made it 20-21, but then we were able to run the clock out and win the game. And then on defense, we had 2 phenomenal corners, Alyssa Arneson and Annika Agason. They were unbelievable. People really commented on our defense. I was blessed to have, the head coach now at Skyline was our defensive coordinator, Peyton Pallure. He was a record holder at Washington State for most games ever played at Washington State. He's now the head coach. He played for me. And then Ryan Thorson was my defensive coordinator. So we had 2 guys that were very seasoned with adjustments and stuff. So they had them in great spots. I believe Alyssa ended up with, I think she had 8 or 9 interceptions, and she was huge. She filled in for Devin on offense when she was gone, and she had, I think, 4 touchdowns in our semifinals and finals. So that was huge. And then, Avery Clayton, Lana Casey, and Avery Salmel kind of short up our back end and our safeties. And then I can't leave out our 2 linebackers. Paige Ellers was she should have been the defensive player of the year, but she had a high ankle sprain the last 3 weeks of our season. We got her back just for playoffs, and that was huge. And then Lauren Patel. So, we were blessed to have a great group, and I'm sorely missed, but I'm really excited for our banquet April 2nd. It'll be great to highlight them again, and then in June to have a ring ceremony also. So I get to see them all again and talk about them and celebrate again.
Yeah, no, that's really really cool. I mean, it's 85% is ringing in my ears right now, and you mentioned it earlier, and I was trying to go back, and I think I've got it right. Jake Heaps was one of your quarterbacks, right, back in the day. Am I right? Is this old memory?
Yeah, Jake Heaps. I was blessed with 6 years, so I had Jake Heaps for 3 years, and then I had Max Brown for 3 years, and
Right. Yeah.
was the Gatorade Player of the Year nationally, and then he went to USC and had some bad luck with a lot of coaches changing
Yeah.
over there. And then he went to Pitt, and then uh, he had a great first 3 games, and then he got a sack and tore his labrum and broke his collarbone. But he's very successful in the media world now. He's doing a color
Yeah.
for some college games
I
now. And then
forgot.
Jake was awesome too.
I forgot about it. Jake came to my mind. That was early on
Yeah,
when we created High School Football
yeah.
America. I remember him. So I guess whether it's flag or tackle, you guys are just like, quarterback instead of quarterback high school or something like that. But one of the things that is happening across the country is the NFL and specifically the NFL teams, all 32, are just digging down into this sport and really, really, really helping. And I would like you to spend a couple of seconds, if you can, here, just to talk about from your perspective, having come from the tackle side now into the flag side, how important it is to have the team in town, if you will, or in the state, reaching down and helping this sport grow.
Yeah, I mean, a huge shout out to Seattle Seahawks and the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks were paramount in this amendment getting passed. They really, in conjunction with WIAA, you know, I know that they had a heavy influence. They've had a tournament on their campus at their training facility the last 2 years. We did not participate last year. I'm trying to get us in this year. I was unaware that it was capped, so we're on a wait list to get in. But they were huge, and they've also been huge. They hosted, or they came out. We were the game of the week. So what they do in Washington is we partner with another school. These are Kinko Conference. So we partnered with Issaquah. Ironically, Issaquah, we played in the state championship game. So we partnered with them. So we traveled to schools, but we wouldn't play each other. So we would play we played Lake Washington and Juanita High School, and we were the game of the week. The Seahawks were there. They had their drum band there.
Nice.
Had the Seahawks mascot there. They had cheerleaders there, and the winner, got $1,000 towards their athletic budget, which we we're fortunate to get. So they've had a heavy influence. And then at the state championship game, the Seahawks were there. They had the cheerleader there. They had confetti cannons. I mean, I've won state. Been fortunate that as an assistant head coach 7 times, we never had confetti cannons. We didn't have all that, and it was really, really cool. And then when we walked off the field, WA is really jumped on board with this too. They had like a little newspaper clipping, and already they took a picture of us the day before. I didn't know why they were taking it, but it's Skyline wins the first inaugural state championship in Washington State history, and they had like the bracket on. They had our picture, and they gave it to the girls. It was well done, and it was having that influence has been awesome. And actually, the Seattle Seahawks for one of their exhibition games at halftime, they had the final 4 teams that played their tournament from the summer before. They played a mini 10-minute game in front of the fans at halftime. So that was really, really cool. So it's been awesome. And I was fortunate enough when my first year's head coach in 2008, just more NFL influence. I took a team, myself and my assistant, Chad Barrett, we took a team down to New Orleans, and we were the Seattle Seahawks. And I had Jake Heaps. I had a kid named Kason Williams. And we went down there and won the NFL 7-on-7. I don't know if they still do. I think
Yeah,
they
they
may,
don't,
but
but they do a different variety. But yeah,
but it was so cool. I mean, we went down there, and the cool part was the Seattle Seahawks at that time. Kevin Griffin and Paul Johns, who are no longer the Seahawks, but they wanted our Skyline offense, and then we had like some regional defensive kids, and we went 13-0 and won the whole thing, and Ed Orgeron and all these. I mean, it was really well done. So the NFL has had a huge impact on my life as a coach, and now putting this investment into the girls with flag football has been awesome too.
Yeah, they've been doing it on the tackle side for a long time with the Coach of the Week and all that, and then the Shula Award. But I think the sky's the limit on the flag side. One last question. It's a fun one. Hopefully, it's a fun one for you going away
Yeah.
here. Which, media people ask stupid questions. So I'm going to put on my stupid media hat right now. So, and I think after I heard your answer at the beginning or midway through here about, starting a program from scratch, I may know the answer here. But is there any way to compare the boys' championships and the girls' flag championships?
Well, I always
Told
get
you it was a
asked.
stupid question.
No. It's great. It's great. I will say, and I will echo with my assistants, and both my assistants won state championships with players, and they've won them as coaches with me. This was rewarding in a different way. It may have been the most rewarding because of the fact of we took a group of girls that, we had some girls that were gifted athletes, and we had some girls that improved tremendously that had really didn't really know the game of football. They didn't know how to line up for a stance. And, there's an old saying that I used to say sometimes, and hopefully this doesn't sound bad, but some of the girls didn't know if a football was stuffed or pumped. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is, what size the football, what to use, are we using leather, stuff like that. I mean, there's just little things. And then people don't think about, like, flag point is not as easy as it looks, and doing all those different strategies. But we did use a lot of the strategies that we use for, the rugby style tackling, near hip, and using all the same terminology we use with the boys. But it was extremely rewarding, and to be able, afterwards, to think about, wow, I was able to do this in both. And I'm a pretty humble guy, and I sometimes avoid stuff like this, honestly, because I want it to be about the girls and our team and everything. But it was extremely special. And, I was asked this after we won the last one, 2012, how does this compare to the rest? And for the boys. And I said, it's hard because it's like talking about your kids, but
Yeah.
I won't shy away from it. This was probably rewarding. It really was, just from that aspect of teaching and ordering uniforms and everything. And then the growth, and having 73 girls out and fighting with the district. I need more stipends and this and that. I know you didn't expect it, but this is growing, and it's the fastest growing sport in the nation right now. And it's proof. And when I end my banquet on April 2nd, I'm going to challenge the parents and the kids. I said, I want 100 next year. I want to have 4 teams. But this year we had I don't like saying JVC, but we had green was our team one.
Mhm.
We had white, and then silver was our freshman. So I said, I want to have a black team, green, silver, white, and black, it may be a lofty goal, and some coaches might not like having that many kids, but I want a community of girls, and I want this community to reach out and show everybody that the girls can play football and are equally as competitive. And I think next year we're going to put more concepts in, and because I've got a girl coming back, and I've got a freshman that maybe throws it further than her coming up too, and we use some double passes with her. So I'm super excited, and I'm sure you can tell by my answer,
I
but
can
this
feel the
was
enthusiasm,
awesome.
Coach. It's awesome. As you were talking there about, the thing that makes me laugh about the sport itself, and obviously there are penalties in flag football. Don't get me wrong with this, but I said to someone the other day, isn't it interesting? We've spent our entire life and careers trying to not have flags, and now flag is the most important thing in the
Yeah,
sport as it grows. It's kind of wild. Well,
yeah.
Coach, thank you for taking the time. It's really been great to get to know you a little bit here. And like I said, I can feel the enthusiasm, and I know the sport is much, much better off as it grows to have a person like you on the sidelines there and taking part in it. So thanks for the time, and congratulations again on the championship.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be able to have this conversation with you.